Hey, Masura-san! Konnichiwa! これは、やんだすけませばて、waliva. Sí, te creo, necesitamos un Pokémon como una mujer que está una dama, algo así. ¿Nandeska? Sí. Soy esa ningen, sin falla. Sí, dale la chichi más grande que la... ¡Uy, sí, mami! Hola, arigato. Sí, güey, dale toda la chichi del mundo que las melonas. Dale melonas. Ahora pues, adiós. What is going on, guys? So really fast, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I do actually have a small quick announcement that I kind of want to communicate with you guys. So on the Discord server that I currently run, I guess, my personal Discord server down in the description. Most of you guys are probably already in there, but if you're not, I do want to kind of let you guys know that we are going to start doing some online tournaments, and a couple of guys inside the Discord server have kind of brought the idea up and volunteered to help out. Basically, we're going to try to do cups that we can kind of orchestrate between smaller groups of people to get the Ultra Friend status kind of rolling a little bit faster. Once we get quite a few people that are already Ultra Friends, we can kind of start meshing together the groups and kind of creating larger lobbies. Our plan is to start with roughly 16 people in a lobby. Then you move on to possibly like a 32-person lobby. I think it would be quite insane if we had like a 64-person tournament. I've personally never, experienced something that large, so I think it would be really cool. But that's just complete, fabrication on my part. I'm not saying that's how it's going to end up being, but I think it would be cool. One of the things that we are trying to do is come up with interesting new concepts to new cups that the Sylph Road hasn't featured yet. The purpose of this isn't to necessarily try to overtake any other online tournaments that you have probably seen, whether it's been on Ghost Stadium or Battle Park or where have you. We're not trying to overtake any of that. We're just trying to supplement the market with a little bit more options out there, trying to be a little bit more unique by doing our own themed cup. We are starting to kind of toss around some ideas for our first monthly cup. But that's also another thing. We don't know if it's going to be monthly just to start with. Because it is an online tournament, we're basing a lot of things on time zones and things like that, and hoping that people can get together and play. If you're 12 hours apart somewhere, it's going to be kind of awkward. So we're trying to kind of figure out all of the semantics of everything. But as of now, I do want to let you guys know that we're going to be starting that. If you guys are at all interested, please go down into the Discord below, under player versus player, and then in the general channel. That's kind of where, I announced it last night, and we've kind of been talking about it, but a lot of things are still up in the air. But if you're excited for that or even interested at all, definitely go check it out in the Discord below. We will definitely send out some more information in the next coming few days as we start to figure some things out. Yeah, so on with the video. What is going on, guys? So today we're back, and today we're actually going to be looking into everyone's favorite waifu from the Pokemon universe. Not Misty, not, Cynthia, not any of the actual human characters in this game. Gardevoir. So Gardevoir is a Psychic and Fairy type Pokemon, maxing out at 3,093, so a huge CP there. But with a 0 on attack, 15 defense, and 15 stamina at level 18, you can hit that clean 1496, which does give us our best stat product inside the Great League, while also sticking underneath the 1500 requirement there. Now, according to my spreadsheets and all the numbers that I have, up against the freestyle, so every Pokemon available, all 548 unique typed Pokemon, Gardevoir is actually 310th in bulk and 239th in stat product. So if we're looking at around 550, 310 is kind of low on the bulk, but 239 is pretty decent in stat product, so we're not looking too bad. We're kind of like middle of the road if we average both of those together. And of course, all of this does come from our base stats here with a 237 on attack, 195 on defense, and a 169 in stamina. Now, the thing I can already see a lot of people already discussing in their minds is going to be the new move, Charm. Charm was added onto Gardevoir here, and because Charm kind of is late to the game, there are several cups that Gardevoir was featured in. Kind of didn't do so hot, but definitely Charm could possibly bring her back. So I definitely think Charm is one of the moves that we're going to look into today. And then out of these bottom three, we kind of have some interesting mix and matching that we can do to try to give some interesting plays to our Gardevoir here. Either way, let's go through our moves here. For Charge Beam, we do have 3.66 energy per turn for 1.66 damage per turn. We do not carry that electric typing, therefore no stab bonus there. Confusion here for 3 energy, we get 4 damage for 4.8 damage per turn after stab, which is actually pretty gnarly. Then we do have Charm here for 2 energy, we get 5 1/3 on the damage per turn, but after stab it does get bumped up to a whopping 6.4. So as we know, Charm is definitely the damage output that we would like to see, but Charge Beam actually gives us the energy to actually fire off some of these moves. So it's kind of a toss-up. Honestly, I don't like Charge Beam nearly as much on Gardevoir as I do some other Pokemon. I definitely think you can sacrifice the 2/3 energy per turn to get Confusion for a way better damage output. I would say that Charge Beam is for those risky people that want to play like super dangerously. You want to like just rely heavily on these charge moves and you want to get there as fast as you can. You don't really care about the damage while you get there. Confusion is the nice middle ground for a lot of people. We are going to talk a little bit about Confusion inside of the cups, but not too much. And then Charm is actually for those people that just want to output tons of damage right out of the gate. They want to eliminate shields from the entire equation. So it's really up to you which one of these that you kind of like best. It kind of depends on your play style. Moving on into our charge moves though, we do have 3 interesting charge moves here: Dazzling Gleam, Psychic, and Shadow Ball. So right off the bat, you can see from these numbers, Shadow Ball is going to be our fastest move, and it's actually got comparable damage to the other 2 here. So Dazzling Gleam definitely going to be our best move in terms of damage output, but it's not by much, and definitely it's going to end up being our most efficient move because of that. But Shadow Ball actually comes in right behind it with that 1.82 there. So Dazzling Gleam here, costing 70 for 110 damage at a 1.57. After stab we do get 132 for a 1.89. Psychic is 70 energy for 100 damage at a 1.43. After stab we do get bumped up to 120 for a 1.71. And Shadow Ball rounding us out here at the bottom, 55 energy for 100 damage at a 1.82. We do not carry that ghost typing, so of course we do not get the stab from Shadow Ball there, but I definitely think that Shadow Ball is one of those moves that we really do need, especially if we're going to be running either Confusion or Charm. Shadow Ball just makes so much more sense here because it does have that lower energy cost. It gets us to that move so much faster, and for relatively the same amount of damage, it's not like a bad trade-off at all. And then out of these 2 moves, I definitely think that the way that I would go about building the Gardevoir, if I go with that Psychic type move in the fast move area, I definitely want to go with the Fairy type move in the charge move area. But if I end up going with the Fairy type move in the fast move area, I kind of like to have that Psychic type move in the actual charge moves there. So it really just kind of depends which way that you want to take it. Personally, for the movesets that we're going to be looking at today, we're going to touch on Confusion a couple of times, but we're not really going to delve too deeply into it. We're mainly going to be focusing on Charm, Shadow Ball, and Psychic. That's going to be the base moveset that we're going to use across all 3 of these cups because from what I found, that moveset actually performs decently, kind of evenly across all 3 cups. There's not really a cup that does way better with Dazzling Gleam versus Psychic. There's not one cup that really does way better with Charm versus Confusion. It just kind of depends on, you know, like I said, your play style and how you want to take your Gardevoir. So to actually start us off here, we're going to move into some shielding scenarios, and Gardevoir is actually featured in 3 cups. So we're going to be doing 3 entire cups today. We're going to be looking at the Twilight Cup, the Nightmare Cup, and Season 1 Regionals. So starting us off with Twilight here, we do start with our 0 versus 0 shield situation, which is a 16.7%. So starting off a little low here, but out of those Pokemon, we do end up beating Tyranitar, Toxicroak, Alolan Raticate, and Umbreon. So the dark Pokemon here, of course, are going to be our big targets. Now, when we switch over to Confusion, the problem here is that Confusion actually does really good up against the poisons. If you remember, in case you don't remember, Twilight featured Dark, Fairy, Poison, and Ghost. So Confusion is really good for the poisons, but it's really bad for the dark type Pokemon. Whereas if we have a fairy type fast move like Charm, we end up doing very good up against the darks, but we kind of have some neutrality in a lot of the other situations. Next, moving on to our 1 versus 0 here, we do have a 54.2. So in the scenario where we have a shield up on our opponent, I'd really like to see that a little higher than only 54, but hey, we're gonna rock with what we got. So we only have some losses up against most of the poison types, which is to be expected. If we're carrying that fairy typing, then the poison types are gonna be able to get to us. Things like Tentacruel, Alolan Muck, things like that are actually gonna be able to break through us and just tear through us because we do carry that weakness to the poison typing. Our next shield scenario is a 0 versus 1, which is actually a 16.7% here again. Same as the 0 versus 0. So we actually end up having Tyranitar, Toxicroak, Alolan Raticate, and Umbreon showing up just as well here. Which is kind of interesting because that ends up meaning that no matter if we give that opponent a shield, whereas if they don't have a shield, we still would end up beating those 4 Pokemon flat out, which is just kind of interesting. Last but not least, we do move into our 1 versus 1, which is a 37.5. Of course, we're going to be able to beat the Darks, plus Toxicroak, Frostlass, Tyranitar, and Alolan Ninetales also showing up in there as well. So to visualize some of these matchups here in the Twilight Cup, we're going to go over to PvPoke. We're going to set up our Gardevoir, Charm, Psychic, Shadow Ball, just like we talked about. Give ourselves 1 shield, give the opponent 1 shield, but we're going to do a multi-battle with a custom group. We're going to quick fill it with the Twilight Cup meta down here at the bottom. Once we hit battle, you can see we do have that 37.5%, just like we talked about. And looking through some of these Pokemon, you can see Toxicroak, Alolan Raticate, Umbreon, Frostlass, Tyranitar, Sableye, Ninetales, Alolan, Drapion, and Skuntank are all clear wins for us. Drapion and Skuntank getting really close there. It looks like we're probably going to end up with like just a couple of HP left after that battle. So for what it's worth, it's almost a loss, but it's still a win. Then we do tie up against Crobat, and then we start our losses with Alolan Muck, Haunter, Togekiss, Azumarill, Quillfish, Venomoth, Dustox, Alolan Marowak, Golbat, Victreebel, Venusaur, Nidoqueen, Tentacruel, and Gloom. So the Twilight Cup, while not amazing, it's kind of middle of the road, and we're gonna actually go back across each 3 of these cups, and I'm gonna try to do something a little different today where I give a rating on these 3 cups and how likely would I personally be in using Gardevoir in these 3 cups. So keep the Twilight in mind here while we move on to the Nightmare Cup, which, just for your information, was Psychic, Dark, and Fighting. So Fairy types in this cup are actually quite interesting because they're going to be super good up against Darks and Fighting. So we do actually have a little bit of stuff going for us here. Starting off in our 0 versus 0, we actually have a 35.3%. which is going to be Poliwrath, Hitmonchan, Lucario, Alolan Raticate, Umbreon, and Spiritomb in our win column. So definitely some interesting matches there. Next we move into our 1 versus 0, which is actually an 82.4%, which is actually really strong. And we only actually have 2 losses here, Alolan Muck and Metagross. So those 2 Pokemon end up getting underneath our skin, which the Alolan Muck, carrying poison typing, makes a lot of sense. Metagross, carrying the steel type moves, definitely makes a lot of sense. So 82.4 is actually really strong, but then if we move into our 0 versus 1, we actually go back to that 35.3. So a very similar situation that we saw in the Twilight Cup, we see here again in the Nightmare. We actually end up running the exact same Pokemon here. Poliwrath, Hitmonchan, Lucario, Alolan Raticate, Umbreon, and Spiritomb are all still wins. So as you can see with Charm, we end up having this unique situation where we don't care about that shield. If the opponent still has that shield, it doesn't matter. We're still going to be able to just break through a lot of that damage and just kill the Pokemon on the opposing team. Last but not least, we do move into our 1 versus 1, which is a 76.5 here. So the only problems that we end up having are things like Alolan Muck, Bronzong, and Metagross all show up here. So looking at the Nightmare Cup here in PvPoke, we do have our Gardevoir built the exact same as before. This time though, we're actually going to do a custom battle with the Nightmare Cup meta as our quick fill. Once we hit battle there, you can see we do jump up to that 76.5 like we talked about. Really cool to see there. So you can see we do have Poliwrath, Lucario, Toxicroak, Hitmonchan, Spiritomb, Raichu, the Alolan version, Raticate, the Alolan version, Umbreon, Xatu, Claydol, Hypno, Drapion, Skuntank, and then we do tie up against ourselves. Here again, just like we talked about in the Twilight Cup, Drapion and Skuntank are right there in the really close area. Then we do have losses up against Alolan Muck, Bronzong, and Metagross. So some very interesting matchups, but only having 3 clear losses is insane. That's so crazy. So the Nightmare Cup, definitely looking pretty strong. If we talk a little bit about Confusion here, Confusion definitely isn't as enticing as it is with Charm because The dark types are going to end up eating us alive if we still have a psychic type fast move, whereas if we have charm or a fairy type fast move, it just makes things a lot quicker here. It makes things a lot better because not only is fighting going to take super effective damage, but dark is going to take super effective damage, and it just ends up helping us out a lot here. Last but not least, let's actually move into Season 1. So Season 1 here, of course, included a ton of typings, which I didn't write down because I'm lazy and it was too much. But starting off here with our 0 versus 0, we actually end up with a whopping 13%. And out of that 13%, some notable wins are Medicham, Umbreon, and Altaria. So all of those make pretty good sense because Medicham does carry fighting typing. He is going to be weak to the fairy type damage. Umbreon carrying dark and Altaria carrying dragon. Both of those are also going to be weak to the fairy type moves, so that makes pretty good sense there. Beating Medicham, I have to say, that's a pretty impressive feat. Next we move into the 1 versus 0, which is a 56.5% here, so not super high, but it's okay, I guess. We do have some losses in this scenario here with Venusaur, Tropius, Magneton, Bastiodon, Whiscash, Quagsire, Haunter, and Alolan Muk. So we do have quite the losses there, and most of those make pretty good sense. Venusaur, Magneton, Bastiodon, Haunter, and Alolan Muk all have some way to kind of get underneath our skin. Quagsire also having access to Sludge Bomb kind of hurts us there. Tropius, you know, Razor Leaf, and just being able to output tons of damage while still being quite bulky himself. You know, most of those do make some sense there. Next we move on into our 0 versus 0, which here again, just like the theme that we've kept up in the last 2 cups, we have a 13%, which is actually the same as our 0 versus 0. So Medicham, Umbreon, and Altaria are still the ones that we end up beating, even though they have a shield up on us this time. And last but not least, we do have our 1 versus 1, which is a 26.1 here. So kind of not hitting on too much there. It is similar to our 0 versus 0 with Medicham, Umbreon, and Altaria showing up, but we are adding Frostlass, Sableye, and Skuntank in there as well. Now taking a look at the Season 1 regionals on PB Poke here, you can see we do have Gardevoir built the exact same as we've had all video long. The only difference this time is we're going to do a multi-battle custom group up against Season 1 regional metas as our quick fill down there at the bottom. Once we hit battle, you can see we do have that clean 26.1%. Definitely not the highest that we've seen today. But starting at the top here, we do have wins up against Medicham, Altaria, and Umbreon. Frostlass, Sableye, Skuntank, and Alolan Muk actually starts our losses there. And then we move from Charizard, Lantern, Haunter, Quagsire, Whiscash, Azumarill, Bronzong, Melmetal, Magneton, Tropius, Alolan Marowak, Fortress, Venusaur, Skarmory, Steelix, and Bastiodon, rounding out the losses there. So I would say that if Nightmare Cup was like our pinnacle of wins, Season 1 is definitely like the bottom of the barrel. I just dislike how we perform inside of our Season 1 regionals here. It just doesn't sit well with me. Out of all 3 cups, I would have to say that Season 1 regionals is our worst performance. I would say, nah, I'm just not even curious to see how I would do in the Season 1 regionals with Gardevoir. On average, amongst all 4 shield situations, we only end up with a 24.65%, so it's not even like hitting on that much. I mean, it's decent. It could be a decent specialist, but you kind of have to really play around it a lot more than I think that it will help you. And that's kind of the problem there. Twilight is middle of the road for me, kind of a meh moment. I would say like it definitely performs better than it did in the past, but it's still kind of in the middle of the road. Averaging all 4 shield situations together, we end up with a 31.75, so that's a little bit better than what we did in Season 1. But now the Nightmare Cup is a definite yes. I would recommend Gardevoir in the Nightmare Cup hands down, with an average amongst all 4 shield situations at 57.375. Holy cow. That means no matter what shield scenario you're in that we've talked about today, over 50% of the time you're still going to end up winning. Think about that. That's pretty crazy. So I would definitely say that Gardevoir has a really strong place in the Nightmare Cup, a so-so place in the Twilight Cup, and a I just kind of know in the Season 1 regionals. But that's just my opinion. Definitely let me know what you guys think down below. And of course, thank you to everyone who has been submitting gameplay. I forget to thank you guys in the video itself, but thank you guys. It's been up on the screen. pretty much, I'm pretty sure it's probably going to end up the entire video. But that is actually going to be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for watching. Always remember that if you do have a deep dive, go down into the Discord and get to voting there. Also remember, keep up with the tournament stuff that we talked about in the beginning of this video by going into the Discord as well. We're going to be posting more details on that in the next coming week or so, probably. So that is actually going to be it today, guys. Thanks so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll go ahead and roll those ending credits. Thank you guys so much for watching. Always remember that if you like to like videos, you could do that, but if you don't, you could be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what you have to say down in the comments below about the video. I do highly appreciate you guys watching. If you guys want to support me in any way, there are several links down in the description for Patreon, joining the community here on YouTube, or even just directly PayPal if that's your thing. I greatly appreciate everyone's name that's on screen, as you guys have showed some sort of support outside of just viewing the videos, and I thank you guys. You don't understand from the bottom of my heart. So until our next video, guys, I will catch you then.